Morning, guys. When we feel loved, when we truly feel loved, there is nothing more powerful in this world. I felt it in my life. I am so grateful for all the love in my life. And I want you to know how powerful that love is. And I want you to know, too, that we all can show the determination, make the decision to recognize that love is a verb, as Stephen Covey has said. It's an action. And I've never had the courage to say this until now. But I want you to know, wherever you are, whatever mistakes, whatever you've been through, whatever you've gone through, you are loved. I love you. I love you because you're the same as me. We all have that one common denominator. We have a mind of our own. We have the power to control it, and we can choose love over hate. And that makes us unlimited. So I want you to remember that no matter what. Have a great day, everyone.
Sometimes when the dream is so big, the fact that it's so big becomes paralyzing because you think about where you are right now and you think, holy cow, that thing that I really want? I don't even, how do you even start when the dream is so big? So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to shrink it down because you know me, I am all about simplicity. I'm all about making sure that the advice works for you because if it doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it. And I'm all about switching how you think about things, making this smaller and making it something that I'm learning about rather than doing and launching and that somehow thinking about it differently frees up the ability to get started. If I get you to start doing that and you do this every day for 10 or 15 minutes, which you absolutely can, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel momentum. You're going to feel like you're working on it. You're going to meet people that are interested in it. You're going to learn things that are going to lead to the next thing that you need to learn. And you will have mastered the art of getting started. And by doing something a little bit every day, you're also going to master the art of continuing to keep going. And from there, it'll snowball. I promise you. I promise you.
Think big, act small. Think big. You got a big dream, a big goal, a big mission, some big thing that you want to get done. That's where we love being as entrepreneurs, right? We love thinking about the big future and what we could build. And it is amazing and exciting, but it can also be overwhelming. It can be stressful. It can be hurtful to our own self-esteem because tell me if this happened to you. You've got this big idea and big goal, and it's exciting to think about it, but then it also becomes scary and it becomes impossible and it becomes something that someone like you can't do. And then we get overwhelmed by the details and then we can't do anything about it because it feels too big. And to execute it, we need a team and we need venture capital and we need investors and we need better people around us and we need more skills, and all of these doubts and insecurities creep in. Does that sound familiar? Is that you? It certainly is me. I want to solve the world's biggest problem. People don't believe in themselves enough. And anytime I think even close to that scale, it's instantly, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? I'm nowhere close. And so the thing that's really helped me is think big, but then act small. Because the biggest thing that most people are missing, I'm missing, you're missing, is just momentum. The biggest thing we're missing is just we're not doing enough. Because thinking big and having a big idea is amazing, but that alone is not enough. You have to go and you got to do the work. And we're so worried about the work being perfect, right? You're so worried about the first thing being amazing, and it won't be. And this is a hard lesson that I learned when I was in my early 20s in my first business, and we lost a $40 million deal because I was trying to be perfect. And I spent the whole summer working on this perfect plan, and I lost the deal. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I think saying you're a perfectionist really just means you're afraid, right? You're afraid of it not being good enough. You're afraid of launching something and people seeing it and judging you, or you're afraid of launching it and then not seeing it and nobody caring, right? We're afraid of being seen and not being seen, both at the same time. We're afraid. And so the answer is to do something. Immediate action. I've been helping people in my Movement Makers program get going on YouTube and now on TikTok, and the amount of indecision that people have around creating their first video, right? What should I wear? What should I say? What should my opening line be? What should my thumbnail be? What kind of gear should I use? What kind of camera? What kind of microphone? What kind of fill in the blank, right? All the things that just prevent you from taking action. Where the answer is just film, honestly, like just get something up. Look, I'm filming this video on my phone walking down the street. I didn't sleep that well last night, and getting some sunshine on my face and just pressing record and going. And I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And that's what you need to do, is just get it started, because the best plan that you can come up with right now is nowhere close to the plan that will help you win. You know, the plan that you come up with right now is not going to be the one that works, because you don't have all the information. And so the idea that you can plan what the end looks like and the path to get there is impossible. And so we spend our best energy planning and thinking instead of actually doing. And that's a big problem. And so it starts with, okay, you've got this big idea, awesome. Now what are you going to do today about it? Today. There's a couple of hacks that I want to share with you that I think can help. So the first is the 2% difference. And the 2% difference says, instead of planning for 100%, you work on the first 2%. So what is that first 2%? That's all you need to work on. What's the first 2%? So if you're thinking about YouTube or making a TikTok, you're thinking about a health journey, you're thinking about whatever it is for your business that you want to launch, what's the first 2%? And just start building momentum. So, you know, if you want to make a YouTube video, go film a video. Just take out your phone and film a video just like I am right now. You want to get started on TikTok? Cool, same thing. Flip your phone the other way, vertical, and start making your video. You want to start a health journey? Cool. You know, we get so stuck on figuring out what the perfect workout's going to be, right? Have you ever done this? Well, am I going to do HIIT? Am I going to do cardio? How many weights am I going to do? Am I going to hurt myself? Do I need to hire a trainer? What new equipment do I need to buy? You know, we just get stuck in all this planning mode instead of doing. Just do anything. Just go for a walk. Do 5 push-ups. You know, do a couple burpees. Whatever comes to mind. It doesn't matter what you do. It's matter that you're doing something. That's the big difference. It doesn't matter the specific action that you're taking. What matters is that you're starting to build some kind of momentum, that you're doing something. That's the most important thing, because if you get up and you do something every day, you're going to find that you start making some tremendous progress towards things. And so 2% difference is to teach yourself that you go from an idea to some kind of immediate action, that we're doing something right away on it. We're not planning for 100%, but we're going for that first 2%. The next thing is just expect to suck at the beginning. You know, we expect to be great out of the gate for some reason. You expect your idea to work, you expect that you're going to have the skills, you expect you're going to create something amazing. You won't. Just expect to suck at the start. It doesn't mean that you suck as a human, it just means that you don't have the skill set yet. And that's okay, and that's normal, and that's totally okay, that's fine. Go back and watch my first video. It was pretty embarrassing. Go back and watch anybody's first anything, and it sucks. It's normal. So if you expect to be great, and then you try something and you can't do it, then you feel really bad about yourself. But if you expect it to suck, and then you're just anything above complete, terrible sucking, then you're good, then you've won. And so apply the 2% difference, and then just expect to suck at the start, and then you keep going. So for anybody out there who's afraid to take action, who, you know, you have these big ideas, big goals, big dreams, big things you want to do, but it just seems so out of reach, and it seems impossible, and it seems that you can't do it, and it's never going to work, you know, and you're stuck in overthinking, over planning, over estimating, just stuck in your head. And it's crazy how quickly we can go from being excited by something to then almost instantly overwhelmed by it, you know. And so you need to have the big dream, you need to have the big goal. That should get you out of bed and excited. It's like, yes, this is the change I want to make in the world. Amazing. And at the same time, you need a incredibly small action plan just to get going, because you've got the great heart and the big dream and the big mission. The only thing you're missing is momentum. Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Good morning, guys. Today, Les Brown reminds us in his 10th rule, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop chasing your dream. And Les Brown gives us an example of a few years back, actually a long time ago, when he was trying to come up with his business, or he was starting up and trying to make it, trying to follow his dream. He was working in a building in Detroit, Michigan, and he remembers sleeping on the floor. He remembers the ridicule, the people making fun of him, with him and his partners as they tried to work on fulfilling their dream. He remembers that pain, and he reminds us to not stop. Not stop on chasing our dream. And our dream is our happiness, our deep happiness, success, fulfillment, peace. So no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard it is right now, you're gonna make it. But you have to make that decision, that determination to make it. Have a great day, everyone.
One of the things that human beings underestimate dramatically is their capacity to get great at something if they're totally immersed in it, totally laser focused on something. But as I've coached the very high-end athletes in my life, the top business people and entertainers, I can tell you that most people underestimate what total obsessive laser focused really is and what it looks like, because you are way more powerful than you know you are if you went crazy, psycho, obsessed, laser focused on anything, even something you're totally ill-prepared for. Humans have an unreal capacity to get great at things, even if they don't have a natural talent for it, if they're immersed in it, and to learn something and acquire a ton of knowledge in a short period of time as well. Society is conspiring all the time in our culture to completely distract you so you never win, to just divert your focus and attention. Look over here, look at this shiny thing, look at this TV show, look at this sports team, worry about what's going on here in this war. And they get these different things on television and our phones and in our lives to just get us distracted so we never get obsessed, we never get laser focused for an extended period of time.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn some rich people success habits that you can copy today. Enjoy. Habit number 2, define your values with Mark Manson.
My focus in my work has always been value focused. I feel like in the self-help and self-development world, there's so much focus on success, you know, getting ahead in your career, starting a business, making more money, having better relationships, but nobody's actually standing back and defining what success is. Like, is our definition of success valuable or not? And I think especially in today's, you know, crazy internet world where we're exposed to everything, deciding what we're choosing to define as success is a more important question than ever before. So that's kind of what got me started on the whole value question in general. And then when I started investigating it and doing a lot of research and writing about it, I started to discover that, like, basically, you know, if you think of like how you define a person in general, as humans, we tend to define people by their choices, by their actions. But then what motivates their actions? Well, often it's how they feel. And then what motivates how they feel about certain things, and it's their perception of what's valuable and what's not. And so that's kind of how I drilled down to to this idea that essentially what we are is just an aggregation of what we choose to value in this world. If I value money more than anything else, that will come to define me through my actions, my behaviors, what I invest my time and attention into. If I value family, that will define who I am, because everything else will flow from that.
Yeah, the thing that I find interesting about values is people often act as if they are empirical truths, like money is valuable or
Yes.
family is valuable, and they don't realize that it was a choice often handed to them by the way they grew up, their parents, what their parents instilled in them. And so stepping back and recognizing that all of this is a choice, that you can consciously decide what you're going to value.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the process works of deciding to value something. So if somebody finds themselves in a
Yeah.
place where they feel totally up, they don't like who they are, and they buy into this notion that, okay, a lot of this is being driven by values, how do they actually change that?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm not a huge fan of a lot of like kind of the typical self-help tropes, but the answer to this question I think is kind of classic visualization, but it's not the visualization that we usually hear about. So what I talk about in the book is that like, let's say I'm just really superficial and I value money more than anything. Like I've got like a fleet of yachts and it's all I care about, you know? And then something happens in my life and I realize that that's pretty superficial. I should like grow up a bit and, you know, value something else. And it's not as simple as just deciding. Like we've all had that experience in our lives where we wish we cared about something that we don't, or vice versa. We wish we didn't care about something that we do, and you can't just stop. And so the process that I describe in the book is that essentially before you can commit to a new value, you kind of have to like try them on. Like it's like going to a store and trying on a bunch of pairs of clothes. And the way you try on a new value is you need to sit down and visualize. And you can even write it out if you want. But it's like, let's say all I care about is my fleet of boats, and I want to try on a new value, like charity or something. I have to sit down and start asking myself, what would it mean for my life? What would it mean for me as a person if I didn't value those boats anymore? And that's a very hard question. It really messes us up because we realize that a lot of our relationships would probably fall apart. A lot of our business commitments would probably fall apart. A lot of our understanding of ourselves would be shaken up or questioned. And it's a very difficult thing to ask. And so, you know, most of the times when you see visualization taught in the self-help industry, it's like they take a guy who wants a fleet of boats and they say, visualize a fleet of boats. Now go get it. And it's like, no. What you need to do is take a guy who wants a fleet of boats and say, visualize not wanting a fleet of boats. Mm-hmm. What would that say about you? Who would you be if that thing you always desired was not your desire anymore?
Habit number 3, get financial education with Robert Kiyosaki.
I really want to talk to you about the most important subject for all of us today, rich, young, poor, or old. It's called financial education. And as you know, our school systems teach us nothing about money. Nothing. It's pathetic. You know, they have financial literacy courses today. Well, that's not financial education. You know, it's really pathetic. And what's happening for most people today is, you know, they follow that age-old mantra, go to school. What do you learn about money in school? Nothing. Get a job. Well, jobs are disappearing. Not only that, is that with artificial intelligence and G5 coming, more jobs are going to get wiped out. Plus, with driverless cars, more jobs are getting wiped out. So why would you go to school to get a job? And then work hard for money, but pay taxes. Taxes are going to keep going up, sports fans. They have to. Somebody's going to pay off this massive mountain of debt stacking up all over the world. And the only way they pay off debt is via taxes. And then they tell you to get out of debt. Oh, God. Debt is money. Please understand me. In 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, money became debt. So the rich know how to use debt to get rich. And that's what I do. My friend Donald Trump, I know some of you hate the guy, more power to you, you know. But we use debt as money. And other guys will tell you get out of debt. Well, you choose. The rich use debt to get rich, and the poor and middle class get wiped out because they're in debt. That's because of the lack of financial education. And I tell you to invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. The key word in there is invest for the long term. Why would you invest for the long term when they're printing trillions of dollars and ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, they're paying you nothing for your money? And you're going to hold for the long term, and you got HFT, high frequency trading. You know, they can trade 1,000 pieces of stock in a second, and you don't have a prayer. You're trading against a machine, a robot. So all this financial advice people are giving out there is a recipe for disaster.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Habit number 4, have clarity with Dean Graziosi.
Every successful person I know knows where they're going. But if you just did something in the next week, just for proof of concept, over the next week, ask 5 to 10 people what they don't want out of life, really quick. Just say, what don't you want? It will come out like a flow, like you can't stop. I don't want this job. I don't want Trump. Oh, I don't want Hillary. I don't want. And let them get into this rhythm of sharing what they don't want, and then interrupt them and simply say, well, now let me stop you for a second. What do you want out of life? Most will say, good question. Or I have to think about that. So most of us are walking around knowing exactly what we don't want, and what do? We run right into it, right? You know, there's a great story I'm going to share right now that Ethan, he always does these church groups, and he's the head of the youth group. So he takes 20, 17-year-old, 18-year-old boys on this whitewater rafting. And they get there, and the guide's nervous because the rapids are all number 4s. It rained a lot, the rapids were high. And it just gives me a really great analogy. When he got done, the guide was so nervous, he made the kids test like 3 times in the first mile. And what he called it was the positive point. And the positive point was the guide said, I will never point at a tree. I'll never point at a rock. I'll never point at the bad rapids that we can't get. When I point, it's always going to be a positive point. I'm going to point where we need to paddle our asses off and get to so everything will be fine. So just know you're never going to see me point at anything wrong. I'm always going to point where we need to go. And what a great lesson for life. We spend so much time trying to avoid the things we don't want, we run into them over and over again. So when you have a clarity of where you're going, when people say that they don't have time, or they're overwhelmed, or they're too busy, or they get there's too much complexity in their life, to me, that you don't need a time management program. You need more clarity on where you're going so you know what to say no to. We live in a world filled with stuff coming at us every second. We got cell phones and text messages, and we're available every second. We have to learn to say no. And by having your vision, you get the ability to learn what to say no to. And for me, and this is from Dan Sullivan, the R factor question, the easiest thing, what gave me the clarity, I want to give you guys this right now. And again, some of you may have heard this before, but it's the easiest for me to get my vision. Instead of looking forward, sometimes we have so much stuff going on in our lives, right? We got all the things, you guys all have your stuff. And it's kind of cloudy around us because we're going so fast trying to get stuff done. Some days we spend a whole day playing defense. Do you ever spend a whole day just waiting for emails to come in that you can solve? Or somebody come in your office and talk, like, it's defense. So we don't have time to look forward. So what really changed my life about 7 or 8 years ago on getting my clarity and my vision is, let's pretend it's 1 year from today. You guys are back here. We're having a family reunion. And instead of looking forward, pretend it's a year from now, and you're looking back, and it was the best year of your life ever. You're alive, your energy, you're vibrating, you feel amazing. You can't wait to wake up in the morning. What does that look like? Rather than picturing what your life could look like, look backwards on what it does look like and let yourself feel it. When I do that, when I look backwards on the best year of my life, I know what I want to look like in the mirror. I know what my relationship should look like. I know how much money I want coming into my bank account. I know how I want to feel with my courage, my confidence. It's just a simple way to do it. So get the clarity of working backwards.
Habit number 5, love what you do with Kylie Jenner.
I think I struggled for a minute with finding something to do on my own, and what was I gonna do? I knew I was passionate about makeup, but I didn't know I could have fun every day doing my job. I'm Kylie Jenner, and I am the founder of Kylie Cosmetics. I had an insecurity with my lips when I was younger, so I turned to makeup to help me feel more confident. I went to the makeup store, and I didn't even know really what colors I was picking. I was just like, I want some lip liner that looks like the color of my lips because I just want my lips to look fuller. But I could never find a lip liner and a lipstick that matched or even the right color that was perfect for me. So that's where the lip kit started. I was so focused on formula and color, but everything else just kind of fell into place. I put so much love into everything that I make, and I make sure everything is perfect and something I would personally use. So then when I see my fans have it and they love it and their reaction, that's what's the most exciting to me. Starting a company on my own and it being so big from the beginning, there's not a lot of room for mistakes. Every company has mistakes. They learn from them and they change them, but it's probably owning up to those from the beginning and just being honest and changing them in front of everybody. I'm the face to my brand, and I take responsibility for everything that happens. I haven't learned everything from my mom yet that I know that I need to. She teaches me something new every day about everything. She's my goals, and I'm just, each day I'm trying to take it all in. She's definitely been a huge part of the success of Kylie Cosmetics. If I could give some advice, it's do something that you love. If you're building something from the ground up, do something that you're passionate about. So you just have fun every day and you love what you do.
And habit number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is beat procrastination with Brian Tracy.
If you do the right things in the right way, you will get whatever results you desire. Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and one of the topics that I can never seem to provide enough information about is overcoming procrastination. Procrastination continues to be one of the largest enemies of our productivity, and if we don't find effective ways to break this habit, it has the potential to completely derail our path towards success. In life, every single person wants to earn more money. They want to be more successful. They want to have a nicer home, nicer car, more money in the bank, and no financial worries. And the key to achieving these goals is to learn how to get more and better results. I know that you might be thinking, Brian, I've tried everything. I've set goals. I've created a time management schedule, but nothing seems to work for me. This brings me to our first strategy for overcoming chronic procrastination, and it's simply this: change your thinking. I've said this before over and over to millions of people around the world, because the truth is, if you change your thinking, you'll change your life. Here's a trick for pulling yourself away from the temptation to procrastinate. Just say the words, do it now, do it now, do it now. These magic words will motivate you and push you to get started. When you repeat these words often enough, the message will get pushed deep into your subconscious and act as a trigger for getting things done right away. If you spend all of your time thinking about how your habit of chronic procrastination gets in the way of all of your goals and motivation and dreams, then your subconscious mind will accept that as the truth, and that's how your life will continue to be. If instead you spend your time thinking about how wonderful you are at getting difficult and important tasks done right away, and how incredibly organized you are with your time, then your subconscious mind will start to accept that as the truth and you will start doing more of those things that overcome procrastination and get more things done faster. So that's the first critical step in not only changing your habit of procrastination, but also any habit in general. Change your thinking. The next strategy is from my best-selling book on time management, Eat That Frog. And it is this: if you have to eat more than one live frog, that's what I like to call a daunting project or task, a live frog, then you should eat the ugliest frog first, and you should do it right away without any delay. It doesn't do you any good to stare at the ugly live frog in front of you, this big task, if you simply resolve to take action and get it over with. Your entire life will be uninhibited by the daunting tasks that once prevented you from moving forward. It's important to remember that you cannot manage time. Time exists completely out of our control. So you can't manage time. What you can do is to manage your life. Time management really is just life management. It is the management of the sequence of events in your life. It's the ability to choose what you do first, what you do second, and what you do later, if at all. And in this ability to choose lies your entire life. When you choose the most important thing and you choose to do that first, and you choose to do that rather than anything else, you immediately put your life onto the fast track. In fact, you can actually double your productivity, performance, and output in one day simply by changing your order of choices in the way that you use your time. Now let's talk about the best way to use our time in order to move us closer to our goals. The way to do this is by developing a single-minded focus on the things you need to do that will have the most important and beneficial impact on your life right now. Whenever you're faced with a task, you must first ask yourself, what are the consequences of doing or not doing this? And if the consequences of not doing something are irrelevant, then don't do it. And do the things that have serious, immediate consequences. So here's what you should do each morning to set yourself up for success and to determine which tasks you need to get started on right away to make a sizable difference in your life. Plan each day in advance. Take time each morning to address your major goals and then write out a list of things you need to do that day in order to get closer to those goals. Set priorities on each item so you don't skip your most important tasks. And then get to it. When you jump right into the workday and start on something really important right away, the level at which you work for the rest of the day will be increased. Before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a thought to share with your friends and followers. It is this: if you do the right things in the right way, you will get whatever results you desire. Now, I'd love to hear from you. So my question today is this: what is one critical task that you have been putting off? And what will you do today to start working on that task? Leave a comment below and I'll be sure to follow up with you. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want to change your future, take action, and take action now.
Morning, guys. I want to share with you a story, a video I watched a while ago. It's from Nick Vujicic, who is a man who was born with no limbs. And he has gone through struggles, but he is now an incredible human being because he's taken that struggle and he is spreading his faith, his love to the world. And he's affected me so much, and I wanted to share with you and remind you that when we're living, laughing, and loving our way to infinite mind wealth, remember the power of love. Nick Vujicic's one speech affected this one young girl. I'll never forget. She stood up and said to him, thank you. No one has ever told me that they love me. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, we don't know how powerful we are, how powerful our thoughts and our words are. So someone feeling loved changed the course of their life. And that is something we can all remember. We have that power. Have a great day, everyone.
So there's another guy who does what I do. He's extremely well respected. He does extremely good work. I hate him. He's always been very nice to me when I've seen him professionally. I have an irrational hatred of him. And whenever his name comes up, it drives me nuts. Like people bring it, like we hired him, and I was like, good. And because I hate him, I'm really competitive with him. And so I will go online and look at my book rankings, and I'll immediately check his. And mind you, I don't look at anybody else's, just his. And if I'm ahead, I've got this like smug feeling. And if he's ahead, I get really pissed off, So anyway, we had the opportunity to speak at the same event. I don't mean like me in the morning, him in the afternoon. Like we were interviewed together on the stage. And the interviewer thought it would be fun if we introduced each other. And so I went first. And then I looked at him and I said, you make me really insecure. All of your strengths are all of my weaknesses. And when your name comes up, it makes me really uncomfortable. And he looked at me and he said, funny, I feel the same about you. The reason I had such an irrational hatred of him had nothing to do with him. It had to do with me. He's my worthy rival. His strengths revealed to me my own weaknesses. And instead of confronting and taking a hard look at myself and evaluating those weaknesses and working on those weaknesses, it was much easier to take all of that negative energy and direct it towards him. In other words, to be competitive, to want to beat him, right? It was a very cathartic experience. We've since become very close friends, have worked together. I no longer check his book rankings. And because we share the same cause, we can actually work together. And so what I recognized was so often in business, we have these competitors, sometimes on our own teams, that we want to beat them. We've all had the experience where one of our colleagues got a promotion and we got upset, we got angry. We got angry at somebody else's success. Think about that for a second. Why couldn't we share in the joy, right? What is it about them that's being revealed in us? That's the problem, right? And so having worthy rivals, instead of competitors are other players we set out to beat. But the problem with that is there's no finish line. And so if we're obsessed with beating the other company, then at some point, sure, you're ahead in whatever metric you chose, until when, right? At what expense, at what cost? That's not sustainable. But rather, the other players inside our industry, outside our industry, on our own teams, we can choose our own worthy rivals. Their strengths reveal to us our weaknesses, and by having our weaknesses revealed to us, it means we have the opportunity to grow and improve. And the Infinite Game, at its core, is basically a game of constant improvement. And so our worthy rivals reveal to us our weaknesses and our opportunities to improve.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Simon Sinek, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, focus on making progress.
When you're trying to build trusting teams, you recognize that you cannot enforce certainty on people. You can offer goals. People like goals. But what's important is how we get there, not just that we got there. Right. Think of it like trying to lose weight, right? There's nothing wrong with setting arbitrary goals with arbitrary dates, which is, by the way, how we build our businesses. Right. We want to hit X amount of dollars in revenue by probably the end of the year, because that's when we pay taxes. It's a completely arbitrary number. Somebody might say, we could do better than that. And you're like, you're right. And then we change the number, right? Complete works of fiction. So we're striving to hit a work of fiction, right? Yeah. And it's the same when we want to lose weight. I want to lose X amount of pounds by X date. Arbitrary, right? And we're doing all the things to do that. We're exercising, eating well, all the things. We love standing on the scale. We love a metric. There's nothing wrong with that. Human beings need that. We can't run in a marathon without mile markers. It's actually unnerving. We need to know how fast and how far. So the metrics are good. And let's say you hit your goal, right? You hit your performance goal just as you had articulated. Amazing, you feel incredible, you feel like you've succeeded. Here's the problem. You have to keep exercising for the rest of your life, right? In other words, you don't stop doing the things that you were doing. So the game hasn't ended. It was simply a waypoint. But what I think is more interesting is what happens if you miss your goal? What happens if you don't lose the amount of weight that you wanted on that date? And the answer is nothing. Nothing happens because you're probably way healthier than you are now than you were. You're probably easily, you can see the trend data. You can see you're well on your way to hitting your goal. You just picked the wrong date. You're easily going to hit it in another month if you just stick to your regime. Business is the same, which is sometimes we miss our goals, but the question is what's the trend data? Is the team working well together? Is morale high? Is some of it out of our control? Market conditions and things like that, things we didn't know about. And so if we happen to miss the number, the problem is how are we rewarding our people? And so many of us only reward our people based on if they hit the number. But what if they're begging, borrowing, and stealing? What if they simply rush at the end of the quarter to drop their prices or have some sort of promotion or have some trickery? They'll hit the number. And then we bonus them, which tells everybody else, I don't care how you hit your numbers as long as you hit them. Well, guess what kind of behavior that's going to reinforce inside our organization? Whereas if you look at the data, the trend data, and you reward somebody who's well on the path, what we're telling you is as long as you're doing a good job, you'll do well in this organization. Leaders understand that they are not responsible for the results. They are responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. And that skill set is very, very different than just trying to get people to do the thing that you know how to do better than them because you've been doing it your whole life.
Rule number 3, be able to adjust.
When the pandemic struck, I mean, my book came out a few months before the pandemic. And so for someone like me who loves to observe and whether the stuff is true or not, you sort of go, you sort of wonder, is everything going to hold up or not? And as an existential flex is something that I predicted would happen either 0, once, or at the absolute most twice in a career. But when COVID happened, we all went through it at the same time. Existential flexibility is that you're able to make a profound 180-degree strategic shift in order to continue to advance your cause. In other words, stay relevant. This is not about the daily flexibility of business. We're talking profound strategic shift here. And sometimes brought on by pandemic, sometimes brought on by changing technology or politics or culture or tastes, but you're able to adjust. So for example, it's Apple, Steve Jobs, when they're developing technology in one direction, they discover this thing called the graphic user interface that they did not invent, and they decide to walk away from millions of dollars spent and countless man hours in order to focus on a different strategic position, because Jobs believed that was a better way to advance his cause of empowering individuals to use personal computers. That's existential flex.
Rule number 4, replace judgment with curiosity.
How do we replace our judgment with curiosity? So there's a simple technique. There are simple techniques to do this. One is write yourself a little reminder. Put a little sticky on your computer that says be curious or ask questions. You'll be amazed how well that works. But especially in times when we're judging, especially when we're in groups of leaders, we're in meetings, we can snowball into judgment really quickly. Let's say someone's performance is in decline. Immediately, they're lazy, they're stupid, they don't understand, they're a problem child. All it takes is one person to break that judgment and say, well, maybe they're going through something. And there is a technique where when you start to form a narrative about someone or about something, that you force yourself to come up with 21 possible alternatives of what could be going on in their life. So are they lazy? Absolutely. That's absolutely a possibility. Are they a problem child? Are they toxic? Absolutely. Are they going through, are their kids struggling at school? Maybe. Do they have problems in their family? Maybe someone's sick? Maybe. Do they have medical issues that they're hiding from us, that they're too embarrassed about? Maybe. My point is can you go through the exercise of writing 20 or 21 alternative stories of what could be happening, and all of a sudden we find ourselves talking about and treating that person differently? And it doesn't just come about people, it's also about decisions we're making at work. And again, in a meeting, all it takes is one person to raise a question of what if. As leaders, the more we start asking each other and ourselves, what if, or what are the opportunities, or what are the possibilities, we'll find ourselves doing that with our people. That when they come to us, instead of us correcting them and telling them that they're wrong, raising questions. But believe it or not, simply having a little reminder to be curious is really important.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, embrace uncertainties.
First and foremost, we have to understand that there's no such thing as certainty of outcome. And this is why, this is a huge difference between finite mindsets and infinite mindsets, right? A finite-minded leader is afraid of surprises and does not like uncertainty, which is why they like to work in very short time frames, because you can actually affect quite a lot of certainty if you only think quarter to quarter, maybe year to year. But if you start thinking in 5 and 10 year increments, we all know we have zero control over those outcomes. So finite-minded players like to play with very short time frames because it makes them feel better, even though the game is infinite. So it's actually, again, sort of a stupid idea. Infinite-minded players embrace uncertainty and find opportunity in surprise. And so where something goes wrong or different, and just as an aside, I got such a kick out of when COVID struck, everybody was talking about during these uncertain times. Newsflash, all times are uncertain. There's never been a time in history ever that was certain. All that happened was something that we didn't expect took place that reminded us that time is uncertain. And for the finite-minded players, the immediate reaction was panic, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? And try double down on the old way of doing things, hoping that if I just did it more, or at least attempt to do it online, that it would survive, right? The more infinite-minded players, and this has nothing to do with stress, we can still have high stress with what was going on, but the more infinite-minded players saw the sudden change in their business and thought, ooh, okay, this is an opportunity. What can I do with this? And instead of doubling down on the way they used to do things, but doing it online, they said, okay, the times have changed, the way I operate my business have changed, all the things that I used to be able to do, like having lunch with people, can't do anymore. So given what I know now, if I was starting from scratch, I have something really valuable and important. How would I build my business today to still provide the value to the people who are looking for the thing that I offer? And that was their mentality. Their mentality was very entrepreneurial. Their mentality was very creative. And though it may have caused stress, there was an appreciation for the opportunity.
Rule number 6, compete with yourself.
One of the nice things about the infinite game is 2 players or more who sell basically the same product for basically the same price for basically the same quality can all be wildly successful at the same time. Like, no one wins. And remember, we're deciding the metrics. So we could decide that it's market share or revenue or profit, and we're making these arbitrary comparisons to arbitrary other players, and we can be all high and mighty about ourselves. General Motors decided that market share was the thing, and they were obsessed with being number 1 in market share. Meanwhile, they were losing money hand over fist year after year after year. Not sure if that's a very infinite-minded focus, because you're clearly going to put yourself out of the game. Remember, when Circuit City went bankrupt, Best Buy didn't win anything. If anything, they had to change the way that they played because Amazon became a much more dominant force in the industry. And so they couldn't actually do the things that they used to do. And this is what it means to be an infinite player. It means you understand that it's not simply about repeating the same thing that's always worked, but it's adapting with politics and culture and technology. And it's not actually about competing against another player in the field, but the only true competitor in an infinite game is actually yourself. How do I make my product better this year than it was last year? How do I give better advice this year than I gave last year? How to become a better leader this year than I was last year? And it's a constant education of constant improvement. I can tell you a funny story, which you'll recognize from the book, which really captures the difference between a finite and infinite mindset, and it comes from a personal experience. I had the opportunity to speak at an education summit for Microsoft. And then a few months later, I was asked to speak at an education summit for Apple. Now, this was back in the Steve Ballmer days when Steve Ballmer ran Microsoft. And at the Microsoft summit, the vast majority of the executives spent the vast majority of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. Ballmer at the time was obsessed with beating Apple. At the Apple summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One was obsessed with their mission, the other one was obsessed with beating their competition. Guess which one was struggling with issues of trust, cooperation, and innovation? So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. This was Microsoft's response to the iPod. And again, there's plenty of evidence and footage of Ballmer talking about he was going to beat the iPod and this was going to be the best product ever. And I have to say, this little piece of technology was quite good. It was very user friendly. It worked very well. And it was a really nice little product. At the end of my Apple talk, I was sharing a taxi with a senior Apple executive, and I couldn't help myself. I just had to stir the pot. So I turned to him and I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. And the conversation was over. Because an infinite player understands sometimes you have the better product, sometimes they have the better product. Sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. The goal is not to beat your competitor. The goal is to outdo yourself. Where Microsoft was obsessed with beating Apple, Apple ignored Microsoft and was obsessed with outdoing itself. A year later, Apple introduced the iPhone, which rendered both the iPod and the Zune completely obsolete.
Rule number 7, remain curious and listen.
Listening is a trust-building exercise, right? If you're in take it down to a personal relationship. If you've ever had a romantic relationship, a loved one, right? Making someone feel heard doesn't mean you're wrong. Saying sorry doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you take accountability for your actions. And I think it is important that when somebody objects to vaccination, that we don't demonize or villainize them, but we attempt to hear them, make them feel heard. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but they have to feel heard. And, you know, listening is not hearing the words. It's making the other person feel that they were heard. We don't get to decide when hearing has happened, when listening has happened. They do. And by the way, it's not 100% successful either, because some people are just hell-bent on, but that's a minority. And so I think the exercise is sitting down with people and say, tell me what you're going through. Tell me what you're afraid of. I want to understand, because we're trying to make everyone safe. I want to hear what your thing is. And let them tell their story. We have no answers. We're not there to object. We're not there to react. We're not there to fix or tell them that they're wrong. Women are better than this than men. And I think that has to happen. And it can happen simultaneously. They are not mutually exclusive. I'll give you one example, which is I have a friend who refused to get vaccinated. And I sat down with her and I said, tell me your reasoning, right? She goes, well, this new technology, we don't know, it hasn't been out long enough. We don't know. So what I hear is fear of the unknown, okay? I go on, and I let her talk and say her thing and explain all the things, and I simply said, so you're afraid of the mRNA technology, right? Yes. I don't want them screwing with my DNA. I said, well, just so you know, it's 20-year-old technology, but then I found something I could agree with her. But you're right. It is the first time it's been commercialized. You're absolutely right. This is the first time we've put it in the market. So I affirmed her fear. And then I said, do you get flu shots every year? She goes, I do. I said, okay, Johnson & Johnson is a good old-fashioned flu shot. It's a different technology. It's not mRNA. So you're 100% right. If you're afraid of the new technology, don't get Moderna or Pfizer. but Johnson & Johnson it's just like a flu shot. It's the same old tech. And she went, it is? I went, it is. She went and got a Moderna shot. Because she just wanted to be heard, because most of her friends, when she said, I'm not getting vaccinated, yelled at her, told her she was stupid, told her she's an idiot, told her she's letting her friends down, told her she's making other people sick, told her she's a risk to society. That doesn't make somebody's mind open up. All I did was let her feel heard. I think we have to do that.
Rule number 8, invest in human skills.
We don't have to like our jobs every day, but we do get to love our jobs every day. It's like you don't like your children every day, but you love your children every day. So having a hard day, that's fine. But the question is what do we fall in love with? And at the end of the day, the reason that we stay or leave a job is because of how we feel about that job. I think we misunderstand when we think people just leave for money. If they just leave for money, then they never really had strong feelings at the company in the first place, right? Because when people feel loyal to the company, they turn down jobs that offer them more money. Or if it's so tempting and the numbers are so high, then they go to their company and say, listen, I was offered this job. It's very tempting. There's a lot of pressure, but I don't want to leave. Is there anything you can do to help me stay? Right? So, there's the point is they're open about it. And what makes people want to have that conversation, like I said, is that they're seen and heard. The best companies have all kinds of programs inside the company to help the person grow as an individual. Now, we talked about, listening skills and these kinds of things. These are valuable for the work that we do, but it turns out that those skills also help us as parents. They help us as spouses or as boyfriends and as girlfriends. These are valuable skills in life, And I think that we forget that. We talk about hard skills and soft skills as if those things are opposite. I hate the term soft skills. Hard skills and human skills. And the more that we invest in human skills, in addition to the hard skills that we're teaching, the more people feel like they're growing as individuals. I'm a better version of myself now than I was when I started at this company, because the company is actually helping me in personal growth. WD-40, which is a company that I admire their culture, the lubricant company. They train their managers to be coaches. So literally, like executive coaching training, that kind of thing. But they train their own people to have that skill set so that they're equipped to help their people who have challenges. And especially with younger generation, the younger generation is asking companies to provide everything. We want to have our sense of belonging, our sense of community, our sense of personal growth, our sense of purpose to come from work. It didn't used to be like that 40 years ago. And so there's a huge pressure on companies. And so I think what entices people into the company and into the industry is not just come and do cybersecurity. There's a percentage of people who are, de facto interested in that, but rather tell them the kind of experience they're going to have, tell them what they get from the company, and you'll find it remarkable how many people will all of a sudden be interested in the category in the company because of what they get holistically, not just what they get from the product.
Rule number 9, be an interactive leader.
As a leader, our responsibility is to make the people feel that we have their backs and actually have their backs. So there's a sort of a nice anthropological, if you want me to go down this rabbit hole, there's a nice anthropological...
I find it fascinating.
There's a nice anthropological explanation, which I actually explained in that book, which raises the question, why do we have leaders? Human beings are naturally hierarchical. We self-organize all the time. It's got nothing to do with whether you have formal hierarchy, like in an organization. We're constantly self-organizing. Like in a sports team, who's the better player? We self-organize, and we pay deference to the one who is better. The scientist who publishes more, or the Nobel laureate. All the other scientists pay deference, right? This is not by accident. There's a very good anthropological reason for it. Going back many years, human beings have only been farming for the past 10 or 12,000 years, but we existed for tens of thousands of years on the planet before that, and we lived in populations that were about 150. We maxed out at about 150, which raises a very interesting question. They lived in austere times. People are hungry. Somebody, brings back some food to the tribe. We all rush in to eat. Well, if you're built like a football player, you can shove your way to the front of the line, right? But this is a bad system. Because if you punch me in the face this afternoon, I'm probably not going to wake you and alert you to danger tonight. And so it's just a bad system for cooperation, which is if we leave every person to themselves. And so we evolved into these hierarchical animals. We're constantly assessing and judging who's higher in the pecking order, who's the alpha of the group. And when we assess that someone is alpha to us, we naturally step back. We naturally defer and allow our alphas to eat first. And we get fed later, and I don't get an elbow in the face, right? Good system. This has survived to this modern day. There's not a single person on the planet, absolutely zero, who has any moral anger, who is offended by the idea that somebody more senior in the organization makes a higher salary or gets a nicer office or a better parking space. It offends nobody. Now, we may think they're useless at their job, but the fact that they make more money than us because they're higher up in the organization offends zero. If you're senior and you leave your coat in the other room, someone will go get it for you. If you're junior and you left your coat in the other room, you get your own coat. In other words, you get treated differently. And this is why people want to get promoted, because they like the perks. But the perks don't come for free. And that's the point, which is as you make your way up the hierarchy, as you achieve that alpha status of the tribe, there's an expectation that, sure, we'll give you first choice of meat and we'll give you first choice of mate. But if danger threatens the tribe, you're going to be the one who runs head first towards that danger first to protect us, which means you might die first. Right? That's why we gave you first choice of mate, because we want to keep your genes in the gene pool. We're not stupid. And it's when leaders shirk that responsibility that we start to have moral outrage. So for example, nobody has a problem with a CEO making more money than they do. The problem we have is when you're willing to lay off your people to protect your salary, to protect your bonus, rather than find other ways to protect the people. This is what morally offends us. We made a deal. There's a deep-seated anthropological deal that we've made with our alphas that you have to protect us. You have to, and you have to do what it takes. Sometimes putting your own interests second, and then you can. But if you're willing to do that, we're proud. We're happy. You go enjoy. You've earned it. And so I think this is a large part about building trust, which is it's not just about saying nice things and being trustworthy. It's that people feel that you actually have their backs and that you would be the one who take responsibility, take accountability, look for other ways to protect us if it meant we're going to get hurt.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is build connections.
One of the things we have to remember is that just because the business can function with a distributed workforce, with an online workforce, we know that there's a sacrifice. It's harder to build trust. If you've joined the company during COVID, you've never physically met any of your colleagues or coworkers. It's much harder to build trust when we don't meet each other. We take for granted that when we go to the office, that the little brief interactions we have at work, when you walk past somebody in the hall and say hello, or the talk going into the meeting and the talk coming out of the meeting, and bumping into somebody and go, oh, I meant to tell you something, or do you want to grab a coffee? No one of these things by themselves does anything, but over the course of time, they contribute to the building of trust, to the building of human relationships. In an online context, we don't have any of the in-between. All we have is the meeting. We log on, we log off, that's it. And so what a lot of companies haven't recognized is that building trust online is possible, but it actually requires more work. What used to happen just relatively organically now has to happen prescriptively. So for example, I'm a huge fan of the Monday morning huddle. We do one on our team, where on Monday morning, the whole team comes together, and there's no discussion of work or deadlines or workloads or anything. It's a human call where we simply say, what's on your heart and mind? And then we answer some funny or poignant question that's posed to us by the person who's leading the huddle that month. And we simply talk about ourselves. And you learn a lot about somebody. Somebody will say, oh, I had a great weekend with my kids and we went hiking. I didn't even know that they had kids, or somebody will say, to be honest, it was a really hard weekend. My father has cancer and he's in the hospital and he took a turn for the worst. And we start to see each other as human, and we start to empathize, and we start to create relationship, and we start to get to know each other. But it's done prescriptively. We make it happen. I'm also a huge fan of turning on a Zoom, for example, and just working. Like, we're not actually working with each other. We're just in each other's screens as we're getting our own work done. It's nice to have somebody there. I'm also, believe it or not, a huge fan of the telephone. Zooms are tiring, especially when you have them all day. It's fake. Very often, I'm looking at a dot at the top of my screen so that you'll think I'm making eye contact with you, but really I'm just staring at the dot at the top of my screen. Or if I'm staring at you, sometimes the placement of the camera and the screens, what you see is this, but I'm looking right at your eyes, And so I think a telephone, believe it or not, is actually a much better way to connect with somebody, especially when someone's distracted. When you can see that someone's doing email, while you're talking to them, there's no actual polite way to say, can you stop doing that and listen to me, please? And we just sort of do it. On a telephone, if you hear someone's distracted, you go, hello, you there? They go, oh, sorry. You can actually catch people. And I find that those interactions, I'm a pacer. I like to pace when I'm on the phone, when I'm thinking. I can't pace on Zoom, which means my thinking is junk, right? When I'm on a phone call, I can walk around. I can walk around wherever I go, and I can talk to somebody, and I can be much more engaged. I think especially for salespeople, use the phone. Pick up the phone. How are you? Wanted to check in with you. Have a conversation without Zoom. I actually think it's actually much better for building relationship, believe it or not. Having Zooms occasionally is great too, but I think we've forgotten how good the phone is.